Buenas buenas, welcome to Music Marketing TV. I'm Kevin Ochoa, and in this video tutorial, we're going to look at how to use Kilohearts Multipass. Now, Multipass is a very special plugin because it allows us to expand the way we think about mixing, and instead of looking at mixing in a broadband sense, in the whole spectrum sense, we're able to look at mixing within specific frequency ranges. What I mean by this is not just EQing, I mean doing transient processing, gating, sidechaining, a lot of things that are on a per band basis that we couldn't do before. Now we've seen, multiband compressors, some multiband limiters, stuff of this nature. But what we really haven't seen in the market is a 5-band transient shaper or transient designer, whatever you want to call them. What we haven't seen in the market is a 5-band flanger with coursing on one band with distortion on another band. So these are all some possibilities that you can create with Multipass. Now, in this video, I want to keep things a little bit simple. I want to show you guys what it is, how FacePlant works, the pre-effects, the mid side, the multiband section, the post effects, and some of the LFOs, envelopes, and whatnot, because this is a very clear and straightforward plugin, but it's still very, very complex. So without further ado, let's listen to the demo in which we're going to afterwards break down how I'm using Multipass on a kick drum, a ARP, and a synth. So creating different sounds with this Multipass plugin. Let's take a listen. And there you go. That's your demo for Kilohertz Faceplants and the Multipass. Now in this video, we're going to look at Multipass. In the previous video, we looked at Faceplants. So if you're interested in that, go check out our video on Faceplant. Now, let's keep things nice and simple. Let's copy and paste these Multipass over. And we'll solve the kick drum over here. And let's just turn on the other Multipass for a second so we can A and B it. So in the context of the mix, as you heard, as I was turning it off, I was playing the track, the transients of the kick drum is very present once we introduce the Multipass. Before the Multipass, it's there, but it's kind of smudgy, it's smeared. A lot of other instruments are on top of it, making it sound farther away in the mix. But once I added the transient designers on the multiband basis, then I'm able to control how much of the punch I want, how much of the high end of I want in. So these are things that we didn't have before. Not only that, but I'm also affecting the sustain on the bass drum. So making it be rounder, have more decay, which I wasn't able to do with the synth itself. So let's take a listen to the before and the after. So I have this nice beefy kick drum. There's punch in it. It's clicky. However, I don't feel it in my stomach, nor is the tail off, the decay or the release smooth. So I'm going to introduce a multipass. So there we go. Now it's nice and punchy. There's a nice roll off at the end of the tail. I really, really like the kick drum now. So let's take a look at how we make this. So let's load up a multipass. So we have here we have here is a pre-section. Now this pre-section, we're able to load up, let's say in our case, we want to add a gain to control how much input we're putting into our signal. So you can control that. Then we have 3 bands up front, but then we can activate a fourth and a fifth band. And we can change the position of the bands right here. See that? We can mute all the bands if we like. Let's do that for a second just to check it out. Of course, I have to turn on the plugin. See that? Now, if we start to add plugins here, let's say it's out of the transient processor here, or the transient shaper. Decrease the sustain. Now here's a cool thing about this little transient shaper. What I can do is change the speed of it to make it slower. See, now that roll off is even smoother. Now let's say I want to, boost the transients here. What I'll do is I'll add another transient shaper right here. I'll add some attack. There you go. Well, one thing we can do is we can add a clip to make sure that we're not peaking. And even if we push up the attack in a drastic way, we're not going to clip. There we go. Let's add a few more. Let's add another transient shaper here. See that? Pretty good processing just from the get-go. We can change the gain here. We want to make sure that everything's nice and matched. Again, we can do that. We can change the input gain right there. The other thing we can do is add a little bit of a saturation right here. Let's add the distortion. Let's say I want some saturation. Now here's a cool thing as well. I can grab the distortion and drag it to any place that I want. You see that? So yeah, it's very, very straightforward. Now, what I like to do on some other instruments, like on a snare drum, let's select the snare. What I did was I was overly aggressive with this. I did a lot of transient designing. I even added some sustain within the area where we have the ring of the snare drum. See, it just lasts a little bit longer. It's sustained a little bit longer. So there's a little bit more fatness to it. I really like that. And furthermore, we can, add a clipper and we can add distortion here. Let's say we wanted to, let's add a distortion on all of them. And now check this out. What we could do is add some quantized distortion in the mid-range. Let's add another transient processor or transient shaper. And now that snare has just a tiny bit more ring to it. Just a tiny bit, but enough to make it ring more, sustain more in the listener's ears. Let's get rid of those extra processors right there. And we're going to move on to the next sound, which is how I added a little bit of saturation just on the lead. And for that, we're going to go to the drop over here. Just Control D. Now, this is a little bit more of a conservative approach to multipass. Instead of adding transient processors on every lane, I'm just adding a simple distortion in the mid-range. Notice how much more full it sounds without adding too much level. Let me show you. So just adding maybe a dB at most, but the sound is much more present, sounds much more full. That's a lot easier than, to boost it 4 or 5 dB to hear it more in the mix. So I really like that we're able to do that with this plugin. The other thing I try to do was I try to do some quantize. But I really didn't enjoy that. What could have been done, and I think I do it with one of the other ARPs, is I have the distortion, and I'm using the quantize just in one band. It makes it sound a little bit more like a guitar, a tiny bit. So does the overdrive. So, we were able to do or recreate some cabinet sounds. So that's pretty cool. Now, if we hop over to the ARP over here, that's actually towards the end of the song. We're actually using a preset from Toby Green. It's 4 AM. And in this case, what we have is a comb filter, another comb filter in different frequency ranges. Let's play it back. Now the sound is moving around quite a bit. What we could also do to add more movement would be to add a, let's say, an ensemble. And we can change the spread by syncing an LFO to it. So let's sync this LFO to the spread here. And we're going to slow it down though. We're going to do something like this. So now we're changing the positioning of the voices that we have on that ensemble plugin. Another thing we could do here is add a transgate. And let me remove the reverb for a second and also the delay. Notice how that is a much more static pluck. You know, it's almost too static. Once we add the transgate in the ensemble, things are moving around nicely. We can change the speed of this. And now this sounds like a vibrato, so we add a little bit of attack and a little bit of release. Should have a little bit smooth vibrato. Some very simple moves that, will add a lot of depth. Of course, we don't have to have these all the way. You can mix them slightly in and just create some depth in the mix. Let's add a little transient design shaper on the little pluck on top. Add a little bit of pumping and decrease the sustain. We could also change the filter over here on the post effects with the LFO and modulate that. So let's add a little modulation on the Q right there. There's also envelopes we can make use of, so let's add in modulation, let's say, where should we do this? We could also do it on the filter, so we can modulate the entire sound. And then we have different sources here. So we have main, notes on, external, band. So we can, send MIDI to this and change it up. We also have per band. So let's say we want to use band 1 to trigger. I really like that now. Let's add the reverbs and the delays back in. And there we go. We took that regular boring pluck, made it something that's dynamic, has depth, has texture. It's an overall enjoyable sound to listen to now. All right, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, that you learned a lot about Multipass, about how to set up the LFOs, the envelopes, the pre-effects section, the multiband section, the post-effects section. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section down below. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel so you stay up to date with our music production and audio engineering software videos. Once again, I'm Kevin Ochoa, and I'll talk to you soon in another Music Marketing TV video. Peace.